Good afternoon. Welcome to Patriot Tough Talk. I'm your host, Mike. I was going to talk about the border today and all the issues we have going on down there, but changed my mind because there's been some bills that have come out. I think everybody needs to pay attention to what's happening and do your research. I'm not going to tell you everything you need to know, and I'm not going to help you create a complete informed opinion. And so I'm going to give you some documents and some places to look for them today. And I want to talk about the Constitution. Our rights as Americans. Our rights as American citizens. And they're pretty basic. I mean, they start out with First Amendment is the right to free speech, press, religion, and assembly. And right to petition the government. See, we have all these rights, and they're slowly picking at them. Freedom of speech. There's been a lot of censorship. There's been a lot of one-sided reporting. So the press isn't searching for actual information. In my opinion, they're feeding us what they want us to know. The First Amendment right of freedom of speech has been shot at and hit several times lately, and people's argument is that, well, these private companies have a right to censor whoever they want because it's their company, and there's some merit there. The truth is that they censor one-sided, unfairly. They've kicked a ton of conservative voices off their pages. Even this thing going on with books. I mean, you can still buy a copy of Mein Kampf, which was Hitler's memoirs or his plan, but yet they're removing Dr. Seuss, and they're removing some of our famous authors, American authors. But once again, it's something you have to research for yourself. I'm not going to sit here and tell you every book because I don't know. But I do know there's been plenty of books removed recently. And I do know that there's plenty of books out there that are still available, which in my opinion should have been the first ones to go. Who wants to read Hitler's his plan, his memoirs, his future, who wants to read that? And if you do want to read it, it's great, from a historical perspective. But you would think that that book would be removed long before Dr. Seuss. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. And they're slowly picking away at that. I mean, there's two bills just passed in the House. They're on their way to the Senate. It's H.R. 8 and H.R. 1446. H.R. 8 is basically background checks for all guns. Now, currently in most states, currently in all states, if you purchase a weapon, you get a background check. It's an FBI background check. It can come back in 10 minutes or it can come back 3 days. The fact is you can't purchase that gun until it comes back. In the write-up by Democrat Mike Doyle from Pennsylvania, he talks about felons in domestic violence cases not being able to get guns. So that's why they had to pass this bill. And the fact is they can't get guns now. If you're a felon inside of a gun store and they run your background and it says you're a felon, you can be arrested on the spot. If you've got domestic violence in your history, your background check comes up with it, and you don't get a gun. So, I guess my point is, all they're doing is expanding the background check and registration of weapons to rifles. So currently, if I buy in New York State, if I buy a rifle, it goes through the federal background check, and then that's it. If I buy a handgun, I have to have a pistol permit. I have to register every weapon. In Florida, where I moved up from, if you had a concealed weapons permit, you could buy a gun and leave that day. If you did not, you could purchase a gun, and there was a 5-day waiting period, I believe. So you could purchase the gun, background check comes through clean, 5 days later you can come pick it up. That's either handgun or rifle. No registration other than the fact that it's registered through the federal government that you have it, because you had to go through a background check for it. So my confusion is, first of all, New York State, we have to register handguns here. A, so New York State can get money, and B, because they're snoopy government assholes. Let's just say what it is. In Florida, you didn't have to register it because it's already registered through the federal government that you went through a background check, and they keep those documents for 20 years. So, if they're talking about holding guns back from felons. Well, felons can't get guns. They're talking about criminals. Criminals don't follow laws. So, regardless of what law you make, that criminal's not going to follow it. He's going to find a way to get the gun without going through the process. Now, 1446, basically, it's about the federal background check. And it talks that normally there's a 3-day, after 3 days, you can, the gun store can waive the background check if your background isn't back from the FBI. I've worked in gun stores and I've purchased guns in stores, and the reality is that the FBI background checks are back in 20-30 minutes tops, and then there's a record of what you bought. And if they go 3 days, it's usually because you can't get it because of some reason, something in the system that says you're not warranted to have it. The Third Amendment is housing soldiers in civilian homes. I don't think they're doing anything along that lines of violating that one. The Fourth Amendment, though, which is your right for, you're protected against unreasonable search and seizure and having warrants issued against you for without probable cause. Now, there are some states and some locations where they are calling it the red flag, that if a neighbor has an issue or sees you as a threat, they can call the police, and the police can now enter your home under the red flag without a warrant, without reasonable cause. You could have done nothing wrong. Now, let me give you an example. You come home from the gun range, or you come home from hunting. You have your guns in the back of your car. You pull them out. Neighbor sees them. She gets freaked out because she gets freaked out. Whatever. Because she wants to be freaked out, or she chooses to be freaked out. Or you unloading the guns at your home from your car scares her or him. They can call the police, and the police can come to your home, and they can come in your home. without a warrant, without probable cause. You haven't done anything. So it brings us to the Fifth Amendment, which protects us against trial without indictment, double jeopardy, self-incrimination, and property seizure. Well, property seizure is the part where the police, when they come in under red flag, they can seize that property until they establish that you're not a threat. I don't know about you. I ain't done anything. I don't want to be accused of, this isn't the Minority Report where somebody's laying in a tub predicting the future. So it's, I get people don't like guns. Then they don't have to look. They don't have to shoot. They don't have to buy. But it is under our constitutional rights to bear arms. And when you bear arms, it's so you can form a militia. It's so that you can defend yourself and your home against any foreign or domestic threat. What scares everybody about these guns? You're going to hear about mass shooters. You're going to hear about all kinds of stuff. The fact is guns don't kill people. People kill people. There needs to be somebody on that trigger who has it in their head that they're going to pull that trigger. I'm sorry. I mean, being a conscientious and safe gun owner is part of the process. And if you have the right to have it, you should be able to have it without any issues, because the cancel culture is very much into being scared. The Sixth Amendment is speedy trial, informative charges, the ability to confront your witnesses, call witnesses, and legal counsel. That's when it goes to court. So, if these first 5 are violated in any way, you will have to go to court to defend yourself, and you may not have done a damn thing. 7th is trial by jury. 8th is protection against excessive bail, fines, and cruel and unusual punishment. We haven't got there yet. Some people believe we will be there. 9 interests me, the 9th Amendment, because its rights granted shall not infringe on other rights. Now that means I have the right to bear arms, but I can't use those arms to stop somebody from speaking, because they have a freedom of speech. And 10, powers not granted to the federal government in the Constitution belong to the states or the people. Right now, they're trying to pass, I think it's H.R. 1, and federalize elections. In the Constitution, the states are in control of each state's election, and the senators in the legislature have the right to make the rules about elections. So they're trying to supersede the 10th Amendment. And it for all intents and purposes, if they federalize it, the 10th commandment, or the 10th commandment, thou shalt not steal, the 10th Amendment will be null and void, because they've taken the power away from the states and they've taken the power away from the people by federalizing the elections. I watch things closely, and I don't deep dive, so I read articles, and I try to read articles that are written by, what I like to do is find facts from the alt-left media and then present them. That way, anybody who's to the left can't argue, well, it came right out of your news feed. The other thing you should read the UN Plan 21 and 30. Agenda 21 and Agenda 30. What those are is that's the UN's vision for the world. And you can read them and you can go through them. A lot of the things that are happening here in the United States are running right along that plan. And the other thing you need to do is you need to see what's happening in other countries. Because these other countries are fighting back against their government because they're having their rights infringed upon. And they're having their, in Spain, they were on lockdown forever. They weren't allowed to assemble. They weren't allowed to do anything. They weren't allowed to go to the store. And after watching Mr. Biden's speech last night, he's talking about we might be able to get with our families in July. I don't see why. But, there's the long, cold winter coming. And, well, I'm not going to get into conspiracies. But he pretty much told us what's happening and when it's going to be over. So they're upfront about it. The fact is that I'm going to see my family and I'm going to hang out with whoever I want, whenever I want, without waiting till July to get through the cold winter or the second influx of COVID. The fear mongering that is going on right now to distract us from what they're doing in the House and the Senate on these bills, which are basically, some of them, evaporating our rights as Americans. So I've babbled on long enough, and I think I'm going to check out for the day. So I will see you Monday unless something really crazy happens over the weekend. And thanks again to the people that have watched. Thanks again to the people that subscribed. And peace out.